Welcome to Trending Upward, and this is Chad Hayes. I want to thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Trending Upward, and I trust that the podcast today will be a help to you. It is my desire that the Word of God be used in such a way on this platform that it would be a help to you as you seek to trend upward. It is important that this life that we live be an ascending Christian life and not a descending Christian life. I trust it to be a help to you as you listen today. Today we're going to be looking at differing positions. In Romans 12 and verse 18, if it be possible, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men. We're going to look at a few things today that I believe would be helpful for us whenever we consider those or we are dealing with those who would have differing positions. And first off, the first important thing is to be willing to listen. In James 1 and verse 19, wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear and slow to speak, slow to wrath. You know, whenever someone comes to us with differing positions, sometimes it can be hard for us to actually hear their position. Or we hear to speak, which means we essentially hear to respond. Have you ever been speaking with someone, dealing with someone who had differing positions, or perhaps you were confronting a situation in their life or confronting something? Maybe you are listening today and you're a spiritual authority, you're a spiritual leader, and you were having to confront something with someone, and they were listening quite simply to respond. Maybe you just got out 3 or 4 words, and then they won't allow you to finish because they're not listening. They are simply hearing to respond. But you know what? When we encounter those who have differing positions, we should take the time to hear them out, to not only hear what their position is, but also take time to hear how they formed that position. You know, every position that somebody would hold has a story. Every position that someone would hold has a foundation that opinion, that belief is resting upon. And oftentimes we have got to get down to the very foundation of opinions and beliefs and allow the Lord to use us and to use His Word to chip away at the foundations that are holding up these opinions and these beliefs. So we've got to be willing to hear people. We've got to be swift to hear and slow to speak. And something else to keep in mind, sometimes when we are dealing with others, we think more about winning the debate and winning the argument, and sometimes we care more about winning. And we feel as though if we've sat down and we've found out that we're on different sides, so to speak, of even the same coin at times, we get so hyper-focused on winning when you know what? Most of the time, you're not going to convince somebody in one sitting. You're not going to convince somebody with one text. You're not going to convince them with one phone call. A lot of times, these are situations and beliefs that people have at times held for many years, and it takes time, and it takes effort, and it takes work. So most times, we've got to realize that, you know what? We're not going to win these things easily. Be willing to be used of God to plant seeds, and then for the Lord to water those seeds behind you to then see fruit in the lives of others. Now, I invite you on this one here to take this one to heart. Don't let disagreements turn into division. Proverbs 13:10, only by pride cometh contention, but with the well-advised is wisdom. Also, answer with grace. This is important, but also respect. Colossians 4 and verse 6, let your speech be always with grace, seasoned with salt, that you may know how ye ought to answer every man. So speak kindly to others, even if you disagree with them. Season your words with grace. We see that seasoned with salt, seasoned with grace, so wisdom and gentleness. Also avoid foolish arguments. 2 Timothy 2 and verse 23, but foolish and unlearned questions avoid, knowing that they do gender strife. You know what? Not every disagreement needs to become a debate. Sometimes pointless arguments will be brought up at times, and all somebody is seeking to do is to get you riled up. That is their goal. They're not legitimately wanting to debate. They're not legitimately open to what you have to say. They just want to get you riled up. So choose your battles. Recognize, just as Jesus did all throughout the Scriptures, especially in the New Testament with the scribes and the Pharisees and the Sadducees, they were constantly trying to entrap Jesus. And you know what? There was times that Jesus did not answer. Now be gentle also, even when you may have to correct someone over their belief or position. 2 Timothy 2 and verse 24. And the servant of the Lord must not strive, but be gentle unto all men, apt to teach, and patience. And then lastly, love them. You've got to love them. Above everything else, you've got to love them. 1 Peter 4 and verse 8, and above all things have fervent charity among yourselves, for charity shall cover the multitude of sins. Now, it's important for us to be approachable when others disagree. There's going to be times that this just happens, and it's going to take Christ-like strength. So we're going to face people all throughout this life that just have differing views. But how do we handle them? How do we approach them? I'd like to thank you for listening today to Trending Upward. If it's been a help to you, I invite you to share this podcast with someone and help get the word out on how they too can trend upward in their walk with God.